Stadium Drive, Indiana Avenue. The way it looks now, as opposed to the way it looked in 1984. Importance about Indiana Avenue is right behind me on Indiana Avenue. Back that way. There was a very strong and thriving black business thoroughfare. You know, there were a lot of black-owned businesses, black-owned homes. Now there are, I dare say, none. This is now quote-unquote 16 Tech area, which was once Busch Stadium, Riverside, you know, near downtown area. Now, and for quite a while, you know, IUPUI has got a lot of investment and a lot of development in the area over the past 50 years. Even from when my father, who grew up in this area, that's where Busch Stadium was now. Now there are apartments that you can't even probably afford to rent. But when my father grew up in the area, you know, it was a lot of differences. Now we just crossed 16th Street, which now once you cross 16th Street, when he grew up, you know, things changed as well. You know, and then black ownership in this area started to grow, because when he was a child, it was no black ownership at all. It was all white families all across 16th Street, and blacks were not allowed in this area at all. And it was a fight if they came over here, you know. Then it was opened up to black home ownership, and then but all the white residents moved out as blacks were able to become homeowners in this area. And then there was some part of a thriving occurring, but not sustainably. Only lasted a generation, almost two, but it only lasted a generation before systematically it was dismantled and destroyed. And now it's being gentrified as the black families die off, because the black businesses have already died off. The disinvestment has already occurred. Disinvestment has already occurred completely and totally. You don't even really get into any kind of black business ownership until you get to Bursell, and then it's meager at best. It's very, very minimal, and you can't invest in the businesses, and so you just have, at best, small, just barely struggling little marts that have no significant revenue stream to grow, scale at all. This is the bottoms. This was a lot of black-owned businesses even when I was a child. This is a continuous process. I don't make this stuff up. I don't make this stuff up. It is very. It's not just unfortunate. It would be unfortunate if it wasn't intentional. Okay, it would be unfortunate if it was just happenstance, just like a series of unfortunate circumstances. Now, mind you, this is an opportunity zone area, and so you see those who are thriving in this opportunity zone, that are able to take advantage of the tax abatements and the tax benefits in this opportunity zone, and they are not black businesses at all. At all. At all. At all. Not any. Not any. No black businesses at all. Barely. Just barely. These were thriving black businesses that I'm pointing out. They were thriving, and they weren't able to sustain. They weren't able to sustain. They didn't have the capital. They didn't have the legacy to sustain. Why? Because the neighborhoods and the property ownership shifted. People died. The houses went to the banks. The families weren't able to keep them and upkeep them, and so they went to the banks. So the equity was lost. Equity was lost. No equity, no money to invest or to reinvest or to maintain or to upkeep, so on and so forth. These things that I'm saying are not made up. They're not artificial. They're real and true. Even in my 36 years in Indianapolis, I've experienced the whole path I just drove, that I'm driving right now. I've experienced thriving home ownership in the area, thriving businesses in the area at the level that they could, that were supported by the area and the neighborhood and so forth, but enough to sustain, enough for a livelihood, enough for the business owners to eke out a livelihood, to own their business and their home and provide for their house, enough to sustain themselves, but not an ecosystem. Now, as I move over towards Crown Hill and Golden Hills area, these are real things.